So
We cannot have another politician, because look, we've gone down this road of politicians running our country for the last 100 years, and look where it's gotten us. We can't do that anymore. That's out of the question. We can't
well,
have a non-politician, another businessman who's very strategic in his moves, etc. We need another Trump, is what we need.
well, the only thing I would add to it though is that, for example, that was the rhetoric when they wanted to run Perot, and Perot was actually beginning to win. But you have to understand the context. He was created by David Rockefeller.
Mhm.
David Rockefeller co-signed the note that allowed him to go in with his company EDS and begin with the early computers, the big mainframes, the IBM 3031, 32, and 33 computers, to begin handling the accounting and payroll for New Jersey and then New York and then other states, and with a $50 million guarantee. No cash actually went anywhere from Rockefeller. He just, signed the guarantee banknote and had a piece of the action.
Mhm.
Uh, when uh, when Bill Clinton was running um, against George Bush Sr., uh, and they needed to split the conservatives so that Bill could win. David Rockefeller's the one that got Perot into the race. And then Perot dropped out because his daughter was having a wedding, and supposedly it was Bush people that were threatening her and going to disrupt the wedding, and he didn't want to do that. Well, the reality is he dropped out of the race because he was actually getting close to looking like he might win. And the plan wasn't to have him win, it was to have Bill Clinton win. He was just supposed to split the right. In fact, I personally worked with and dealt with the security people for Clinton later, who were there with him from Arkansas as he was running for president. And at a time when you thought, Roe was talking like, Bill Clinton's such a, whatever, that you wouldn't even hire, he wouldn't even hire him for a mid-level manager. Okay. Pro saying that, he's that much of a kid. He doesn't know what he's doing. Uh, Clinton was being puffed up as, this genius. He's running Jimmy Carter's campaign. He's a professor of law there at the university, and he's running for his own office as the uh, prosecutor there in one of the counties, or AG, whatever. And so he's like Superman doing all this stuff. It was actually just, he's being helped through this by people in the background because he's a hidden Rockefeller. His real dad is Winthrop Rockefeller, who was governor of Arkansas. His mom was a maid there at the Rockefeller Mansion. And so, he vacations every year with the Rockefeller family there in Colorado, or did up until a few years ago, every summer for years and years and years and years, because he's a Rockefeller. He's right there in plain sight. Doesn't look anything like Blythe, the guy that supposedly was the father that mom went on one date with, and then a few weeks later he died in a single car crash, drowned in a ditch. It was just convenient. He's the guy that died, and they could pin the baby on him, but it was actually Winthrop Rockefeller
Yeah. Well,
in the war. So, well, the reason I say all that is because as you get into the uh, businessman side of it, America was conned once before because of this whole businessman thing. You say we need another businessman like Trump. The monsters had conned us with Perot. When Perot dropped out of the race, was out of it. There was a certain point where he had to get back in the race. So I have a friend who's now passed, but was there present when it happened. Perot's head of security got a call from David Rockefeller's head of security and said, there's a plane going to be on the tarmac there at Dallas in the morning, 6 a.m. Please have Mr. Perot on the plane. Mr. Rockefeller wants to see him here at the house. And of course, the Rockefeller Center of Operations in the U.S. is Hot Springs, Arkansas. That's where they have their, core of operations. Huge estate there. They have their own runway in front of the house. Roe was over with one of his girlfriends at the time. And so his head of security gets him on the plane. He didn't want to go. He goes out, gets to the Rockefeller place. goes into the outside waiting room area and has to wait an hour and 15 minutes after he gets there to see David, make sure he knows who's in charge here. Come here, sit down. I'll see you when I'm ready. Rockefeller comes out, Perot goes in, meets with him for just about an hour, comes out, actually physically was, pale and had to be helped on the plane, has a scotch or two on the plane, tells his head of security to have his press agent set up a meeting as soon as he gets back to Dallas and tells the press when he lands at Dallas that he'd met with his friend David Rockefeller and they'd counseled about the state of the nation and blah, 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 and that he decided to get back in the race. Well, he got read in. He didn't want to get in the race. He was done. He gets read in. You will be in the race. And you will continue to coordinate your communications with the Clinton team so that you're aiming at Bush, not at Clinton, so that Clinton gets elected. And he goes ahead and does that. And so Pro stole or moved the majority of the votes that went and voted for him from Bush, not from Clinton. And that it split the right. As a businessman, running for president, got to fix this country. Big sucking sound. And the rest is history. We got Clinton.
Right.
And the reason I say all that is because in this game, we were fortunate. We got Trump. Trump says he was invited by 200 generals to run, and that it wasn't just him all by himself, or was his support to get this whole thing going. It was 200 generals. He said that. He's been very clear about that. Would we be able to duplicate that again with another person? Probably isn't the right time, and you don't want the sense of a coup. What moniker you put on them, politician, businessman, whatever. I think we have to have somebody that is altruistic and focused on the citizenry as opposed to the politics or the military or even the money. It's why the America First, Make America Great Again is so important. We have to get our own house in order. So we need somebody that won't be sucked into the globalist perspective easily
Right.
or
Let me ask
diverted.
you. Let me ask you the question point blank. If 107 could have his cake and eat it too, who would be the president in 2028?
I don't think we know. I don't know. And the
You don't
reason
have a favorite person in mind?
you know what? Here's why I don't. So many of the people that are maybe on the roster somehow uh, have so many things where they appear to be divided or not strong or easily controlled by somebody. I don't know if we've actually seen clearly any of those possibilities emerge in anything close to a decisive way. And remember, we still have, over 3 years, but before the campaign gets going, we got 2 solid years anyway. That even if people are, trying to make known their intentions and desires and all that, there's a lot to come out that will force you to have to reconsider what you think about so many of the players. And I have a person that I really like as a primary and a couple of others that are secondary, but there's still proof in the pudding that needs to be done. And so I wouldn't want to damage that person by saying that name because then it would put undue pressure while they're still completing what they're doing right now. And it's not Vance, it's somebody else. But there's several people that we have a lot that's got to happen. And, in the heat of the moment, in the fires that are still ahead, we still have a near death experience for America ahead. We have great confrontation still ahead. There's a lot of drama that has to happen as we go through the arrests, as we go through the disclosures of what actually occurred back in 2015 and 16, and then during the midterms and in 2020 and since. So I don't think we have all the information yet. And I
Right.
think America, even a year from now, let alone 2 and 3 years from now, we're going to have a different appetite than we have right now. When you change your diet, um, after a while, you become more sensitive. If reduce the salt, you're more sensitive to salt. If you reduce the sugars, you become more sensitive to sugars and other things. It changes your appetite as you get older. Things that were really important to you 10, 15, 20, 40 years earlier kind of fall to the wayside. And America is going to be much different, more mature, seasoned. Think of it this way. Guys that go into battle in war. I knew a guy that went to Vietnam. I know what he was like when he left, and I'd known him for a few years, older guy. And I knew what he was like when he came back. He was a completely different person. He stands out in my mind just thinking about it because we just talked the other day suffering from, and I talked to somebody else last night, both of them having the effects of Agent Orange in their system from all that ways back. But you come back with a different, glasses you see through. With what we're about to go through, as much as you think, so many things have happened. Look, I mean, I went down the list. It's like uh, the Billy Joel song, "We Didn't Light the Fire." When you start stacking all the things that have happened to us in the last, you know, 30 years, Oklahoma City, 9/11, you know, uh, the crash in 2007-8 within the banking system, things that were smaller that almost took us out, attempted nuke that nobody knows about in Seattle on November 3rd, a year before the 2016 election or the 2020 election, November 3rd, 2019. The attempt to spread a biological and then a radiological down in LA in January that year, with the helicopters landing on the street in LA, saying, people saying it was a military exercise, one of the most densely packed, busiest streets in the world, and you all of a sudden closed off for a military operation with no warning in a downtown area and start landing helicopters and pulling out stuff in with nest teams and nest bags
I remember
with
that.
stuff inside the bags. Okay, people have no concept of how close we have come on numerous things that were planned against us. Uh, Nancy Pelosi, just a few days earlier in the last budget crisis, think about this. She was going to take 93 members of her family on two Air Force jets, and they were flying to the other side of the world to go see the troops in Afghanistan and, go down to, you know, Egypt and see the pyramids and all that. She was going to be on the other side of the
That makes no
world.
sense.
She was going to be on the other side of the world with all of her family when a great outbreak before the one that we just had was going to happen. That you're on YouTube, so I don't even say the name, but I feel like we can't even say the name of something that shut the country down for
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years. But they had it planned the first phase 2 years earlier. Think about that, and then Plan B is the one that you got. They were going to get people spooked up enough that you were preconditioned, and
Yeah,
they didn't get that. Okay,
it
we've
sounds
got.
like she was trying to flee with her whole family based on what you're telling
Of
me.
course she was. Of course she was. She was going to be on the other side of the world when the outbreak happened, and then not bring him back. And then supposedly Trump would get hit and his family and all that. DC, she'd come back and rule and reign from Denver, from the city
Right.
under the airport, right? So uh, there's so many things going on here. The whole senior executive service operation, uh, uh, challenging the military operation out of NORAD for continuity in government that's still going on today. The fight's as hot as it's ever been right now, and people don't even have a knowledge of it in the public side. The raid at Mar-a-Lago for the looking for the biscuit,
Right,
the
right.
key code for the nukes. Trump himself has acknowledged that that's what they're looking for was the codes. Did that last summer. I've talked about that before. There's so many things
Yep.
that are occurring, have occurred. So, and there's so much more to go yet with this near-death experience, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Trump just the other day announced that we're going to, since India and everybody else is out there, China's, testing their nuclear weapons. Well, we're going to start testing our weapons again. We're going to match what everybody else is doing. And so you think that the standoff is over? No, it's still coming.
No.
We're coming up on a Cuban Missile Crisis. Lavrov literally quoted me before the Ukraine war and said, we're going to have a Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, I've been saying that for years before that,
Yeah.
over and over. And the foreign minister out of Russia says the same thing. We're on the brink of another Cuban Missile Crisis. We are coming to that still. And so in that context, in the fires that are yet ahead, as hot as they are, they're going to get a lot hotter. We won't truly see who the people are that we can trust completely. And it might surprise you who we can't and can in the heat that's yet to come. And so I don't know that we know who is the right person when the time comes to replace Trump.
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe when you and I are in person, because one thing that you and I
No, I'm not telling anybody. I do not want to damage
we
that
have
person.
several
They're
things in
doing great
common.
stuff.
We have
I'm
several
not
things
telling anybody.
Yeah, we have several things in common, and one of them is we both have a pretty big fat stomach, and it's not just food in there. There's a lot of secrets in there. Okay, and I believe
Well, if you talk
I've
to
been
Jen, it's
known.
parasite.
I've been known to hold a few secrets, but
Yeah.
DeSantis, for example, he's a skull and bones. I know for a fact he's going to throw his hat into the ring in 2028. This
Yeah,
JD
he's a Bush
Vance,
baby. I'm not voting for him ever.
he's doing
Uh,
everything great in Florida. I'm going to tell you
he's
right now.
doing thing. Look, let me just say this.
Yeah,
He's done even before he tried to come against Trump different times earlier on and talk about running and stuff like that. He's been a pretty on point for Florida. So I'm not going to throw any
yes,
stones. There is things that even on the vote stuff, he made this vote integrity section and all that, but he didn't do anything for Tim Canova, who was battling Debbie Wasserman Schultz, where they'd proven, uh, uh, fraud
right,
in that position. And I'm trying to be careful because of YouTube, but they literally got ballots on the back seat
right.
of the rental car of one of the key people,
Sure.
and and they let them destroy 50,000 ballots
Yeah,
that proved that Tim won his race, and yet we still got Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was protecting Hillary Clinton to be the nominee back in 2016.
right.
Uh, uh, he did nothing,
I know.
nothing to go and do anything on that. So the help is there to get everybody to go along and agree to everything. When it comes to the real issues, that remember, Trump is going to his goal as president in public life. His goal here before he leaves office is to leave America with two primary things: an honest vote, honest elections, and honest money. Real money that's constitutional, that's backed by metals,
Yeah,
gold and silver.
okay, but
Nothing,
how about
nothing.
health also?
Well, but again, his primary two things, if you have honest elections and honest money, the other stuff starts to fall into place.
Right.
Uh, and you could name everything. You can name the military, health, science.
The chemtrails, all of this stuff, right?
The technology that's a threat to us. But if you allow the American people to actually have pretty good sense, if you allow them to get people that are actually there representatives into office and to control who's actually going to be running things that represents the American people and their values, you got a pretty good chance of getting it right. And when you get these people that are selected for us and foisted upon us the way that it's been happening, you get the mischief that's
Right.
been what's happening
Yeah.
for the last 100 years.
It looks like also, and I don't want to jump around here too much, but it looks like we're getting ready to go in Venezuela. I mean, the writing's on the
Getting
wall.
ready, we're there, but
You
yes,
are.
going in more
Okay.
demonstrably. Yeah, we got 10,000 troops ready to go into Caracas and manage that while we go in. We've got everything, ready. Think shock and awe at a smaller level, but locally on their military bases where they've been protecting a lot of the crowd, including the Cubans and Russians and everybody else, the Chinese. If they're gonna manufacture drugs and ship them off to come to America, we're gonna destroy those drugs. We're not gonna do it on the boat. We're gonna do it in the lab.
Right.
And so enjoy the show. Like we don't know where this stuff's at, and we have a pretty good idea where Maduro's at. He wants to play patty cakes and like that. We're gonna up the game, and there's no use going in haphazard. There's no use throwing any personnel in there for the time being. You can start out with we'll go start dismantling their war machine. They want to threaten us. Okay, well, we're America. Let's see how
Yeah.
Venezuela does against us. And by the
Yeah.
way, the origins of the vote fraud that was orchestrated using three-letter agencies, our FBI, our CIA, in collusion with MI6, MI5, Cuban intelligence. Cuba was really running Venezuela for decades and decades and decades. Uh, uh, and then you've got Russia in there. But that's where the collusion happened with Smartmatic vote machines and vote systems. By the way, LA County
Yeah.
has their own private voting system. They are the only one in the country the only county, but the largest county in the country that has its own electronic voting machine system. But
Right.
it's based on Smartmatic. Okay. Smartmatic is the one that we have all of the cases now here in U.S. courts where they overthrew the Philippines government and were paying people off and other countries around the world using the Smartmatic system. Well, that's
Right.
what LA County has. How do you think you get, Cuba's running Venezuela. How do you get a person as the mayor of LA who in her vacation days goes to Cuba to listen to the fearless leader Fidel Castro give his 5-hour Franken speech over and over? Okay, that's the person that's running LA, a person that idolizes a Marxist, Fidel Castro. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's who's the mayor of LA. Well, how did they get there? Well, Smartmatic. Enjoy the show. It's going to get epic
Exactly.
here shortly. And where was she, by the way? Where was she on the day that the California fires happened? She was down in South Africa, where, of course, I was here just a while back. She was at a game preserve in South Africa, meeting with 17 attorney generals from states around the country, plus other politicians, other agency personnel, health and human services and things like that,
Right.
where they were plotting how to take back control and push Trump out of office. They were down there the day the fires started at the tail end of the Biden administration. Um, as I landed in LA, there was Biden's aircraft there at LAX, and we landed opposite direction from our normal landing, landing from west to east, coming in over the water because of the artificial Santa Ana out of season that was being caused by weather manipulation coming from our country's most secret base, Area 51, where they were spraying silver oxide over the western side of the test range. We have satellite imagery of it. It's not hidden. We know exactly what was going on there. You can see exactly what's going on. And then they're pushing that material
Right.
across into the LA basin and dropping it out of the air with pretty exacting precision.
Yeah.
Um, and it dries out the plant life and all sorts of stuff, makes it easier to catch fire and like that. So
Yeah,
and burn hotter.
you don't see Venezuela being long drawn out, number one. And do you think that we're going to take the oil? Is Donald Trump going to follow his own advice? When we went into Iraq, we didn't take the oil. Will we take the oil this time when we go into Venezuela? And part two to that question: once things start to normalize in Venezuela, is their currency going to normalize as well?
Well, they won't be able to run their own currency for the time being. The oil, Venezuela is the richest country practically on the planet in oil. They're richer than Saudi Arabia. That's why it's so horrid that they're so destitute right this second with the Marxist government and like that, the Cubans and all that in there. In fact, their main oil field is called the Rockefeller field. So they're a very,
If they
very
have that much oil, what's to stop China and Russia to say, "Wait a minute, you're not going in there alone. We're going to defend Venezuela."
well. In fact, Russia did a deal to refurbish a couple of years back uh, one of the huge oil fields in Venezuela.
Hmm.
For a period of time back during the early part of the Biden administration, they were flying their Tu-188 supersonic bomber
Hmm.
over to Venezuela once a week, and show a force, show a power alignment, things like that. And So they've been in there, but the reality is that Trump's waving them all off, giving them a chance to get out of the way because we're going to go in there and stop this threat into the U.S. We have Maduro has a bounty on his head that was put in place at the U.S.
$50
Justice
million.
Department. No, 50 million, yeah,
Yeah.
50 million, the largest bounty ever in history from the U.S. government. And then the next one in line is Ramaphosa in South Africa. He's the one that came over with his delegation, was in the Oval Office, and President Trump pantsed him right there in front of the world on the murdering of the white farmers in South Africa, as though he acts like he didn't know what it was about. His aides are all, we don't know what
I remember
there's
that.
people being killed here. Wow, I'm so shocked.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
well, he has since Trump has since referred Ramaphosa to the Justice Department, investigating, looking at his funding of terrorism. His government's been aligning, their Marxists has been aligning with Iran, done military exercises with Iran off the coast of South Africa. Famously, when I was there just a little while ago, one of their generals out of South Africa shows up in Iran, and they're coordinating their activities with Iran. And
Right.
by the way, just so you know, to remind people, South Africa had enough nuclear material for 5 bombs uh, back when the Marxists began to take power there. So, they're not lightweights in their own facilities and like that. Coordinate anything that gets coordinated between South Africa and Iran at this time. Danger, danger, danger. Will Robinson.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about Trump. What are some of the strategic moves being positioned right now that the public doesn't really understand, and when they'll look back in hindsight?
Well, in order to complete the two most important things that Trump wants to do, you can't just, talk elections. You have to actually do something with it. And as we know, for example, with the Tina Peters case, uh, the federal ability to intercede in state functions and activities is very limited due to the way our Constitution sets up states' rights. uh, how they run elections, their voter rolls, what method they use, machines and paper and contractors and everything else, is up to the states. However, in a matter where there's national security at risk, the whole country on the line, the president can change hats from the police chief, which is internal, to the commander in chief. And what we know now, and he's very clear, we have it all. We have the guys in U.S. protective custody who did the mechanical side, the computer communications side of the fix of the 2020 election. We also have the information concerning the fake ballots that were printed in China that were moved over here and put into the election system as needed, primarily through the mail and the drop boxes. And so we have all of that, and we have the people that did it, that engineered it, in protective U.S. custody. Tulsi Gabbard famously said in one of the cabinet meetings 6 months ago, Mr. President, we now have proof of a stolen election. We now know that the only way forward is we're going to have to use hand count paper ballot, just like you said, Mr. President. So the president has told his cabinet where he's going, hand count paper ballot. He told the country a few days ago, about 2 weeks ago now, when he was in a press conference concerning Ukraine, and a reporter asked him a question. He says, well, it's not really on the subject, it's not part of what this press conference is for, but since you ask, I'm just going to tell you that I'm days away from signing. I'm not considering signing. He didn't say he's considering signing. He said, I'm days away from signing an executive order concerning paper ballots, that we're going to go to a hand count paper ballot, no machines. He told this to the whole entire world. Now, he also, the executive order that he says he's getting ready to sign, behind the scenes, that's, we understand that it's in predominantly an executive order based on work that the team that I put together last January, the day after he was sworn into office, wrote up a proposed version of the executive order on this, and very, sophisticated, advanced, precise executive order, 17 pages. It's been published. It's out there. We've put it out to the world. And we understand from the legal team around Trump that it's pretty close to what we had proposed, maybe 80 or 90%, we'll see. But that executive order, as we presented it, and as we understand Trump is going to sign, it mandates, first of all, before the executive order is signed, that the president must first declare a national emergency. And the reason for that is regarding elections. The reason for that is that without a national emergency regarding elections, he couldn't control the state's operations concerning elections. So he has to exercise commander-in-chief authority in the context of a national emergency, something that threatens the nation as a whole. And then he can go into the state's operations, how they conduct their elections. He can go in and mandate, and it's the first thing within the executive order, we have to get control of the voter rolls. And so the existing voter rolls are so corrupted, so false, that you can't, with any assurity in any timely way, go in there and clean them out one at a time. You just got to start a clean slate, and everybody's going to have to re-register to vote with government-issued ID, sign on the dotted line under penalty of perjury that they're who they say they are, have the right to vote in that district, blah, blah, blah. This is their residence. And so clean voter roll. Then everything else can happen on top of that. One-day vote, not month long. And no machines, zero machines. Within that context, at the same time, I asked for a group to put together a proposed version of the executive order that would go to a hand count paper ballot. I asked another group to look at the system the way it is right now, and I asked several questions. First off, answer this question: can the existing system be used in its aggregate across the country? With the machines and systems in the country right now, and be trusted to provide an honest, fair vote in 2026? Of course, the answer is no. We know it's corrupted. It's got all sorts of people in the voter rolls that aren't supposed to be there, and you got these centralized counting centers, this multi-vote or multi-count a multi-day election system that gives all sorts of room for people to control the algorithms and blah, blah, blah. So the existing system is broken beyond repair. But the
Yeah.
second question is, can the system be repaired? Is there machines? Is there technology out there that can be augmented into the current system, woven into it, to replace some of the things that are vulnerable and or add
Blockchain.
to them? To well, hold on, no, blockchain does not work. Not a non-starter. I'm just telling you, and
All
they
the
cover
blocks
that.
have to agree.
Nope, that it's a non-starter. I can tell you right now, it's a non-starter, and we're not using any machines, no blockchain, non-starter, and that was part of what was supposed to be answered within this technical paper. It is actually. The third thing is there a vote system, like you said, the blockchain and other things that could be used and implemented, trained, certified, in place in time for the 2026 election? No, there isn't one. So what's the way forward? The only way forward is to do a hand count paper ballot for 2026 and most likely for 2028 within the context of a national emergency. Now, if people want to bring in some of the other technologies, I can tell you that we've looked at everything, including blockchain. And there's vulnerabilities that the people in the blockchain world aren't understanding within the advanced computer systems that already exist, let alone what's coming and the AI. So, no, it is not. It is vulnerable. Anything electronic. So, Trump, and this was part of the thing, and this was the reason I raised that. This group, which had all the right credentials, uh, presented one machine addition to the hand count paper ballot that they felt would be useful to speed the count. And Trump liked most of the report, but when they got to that, adding a machine in, it was a non-starter. Pissed him off because it looked opportunistic. That was the exact word that was used. And they didn't understand where we're going. We're not going to use any machines. France does it, no machines. India does it, no machines. And they have the count by the end of the evening. You don't need the machines. We did it for a long time. It's a ruse. It's a ploy to convince people you have to have the machines. You do it with smaller uh, precincts, 1,500 or less, and it's you don't have volunteers that have to stop their job for a month. It's a 1 day. You do a little training, you come in, it's all done in the open. No ballots transported in the trunks of police cars, the fire engine, grandma's knitting basket to some central vote center 300 miles away where all the mischief can happen behind, uh, closed off windows and doors and all that bullshit. Counted where cast. No ballots get moved at all right there in the open. That's what Trump's going to do. And he's going to order that. He told the world, listen to me, a couple of weeks ago, he told the world, I'm about to sign an executive order concerning hand count paper ballots. No, zero mail ins, with extremely rare exceptions heavily documented where people are medically closed in or military. No mail-in ballot, no drop boxes with Zuckerberg and his DoD friends. Okay, not happening. Zuckerberg's a creation of DARPA.
Yes, we know that.
Okay, so the
By
long
the
and
way,
short of
thank
it,
you for your contribution to the movie, dear Mr. President. How did you like yourself speaking in Mandarin Chinese and Cantonese and Japanese, French, Italian, Spanish? I mean, was that amazing or what?
well, it's pretty amazing. What's really amazing is these little earbuds where you can talk with somebody and it instantly
In
translates
seconds.
what they're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even seconds. I mean,
It's
it's
less than seconds.
instantaneous. Yeah, and you hear them. It's like a movie that's out of sync with the
Yeah. It's amazing.
translator, right, with their lips. But you're
Yeah.
watching their lips go, but you're hearing it.
Yeah. But I live down here in Cape Canaveral, Merritt Island. Well, Cape Canaveral is where I have my center. I wish you would have told me that you were in Titusville, but I'm sure you're there on some kind of business. Maybe one day.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm so many places I never even do a break. I was all over the East Coast. I think it was 2 weeks ago,
Right.
and I never had a chance to do a single broadcast because I was down in Miami. I was up at Mar-a-Lago. I was up at
Yeah.
uh, Titusville and uh, Winter Park, where I used to have a office, and then up to South Carolina and Washington D.C., and then up to Massachusetts, and then I had to go west,
Yeah.
and that was all just in a couple of days. But yeah, that was a busy
Well,
week.
this area here is the area that the Donald Trump is proposing what's called the Golden Dome. I'm sure you know about it. Do you have anything to do with the Golden Dome, Juan?
No, I don't have anything to do with it. I'm aware of it, but you know, um, right now people don't even realize this. If if there was a launch, in fact, there's a Netflix special that just came out the other a presentation, whatever, the Dynamite House or whatever, and about America being fired upon from a missile launch out in the Pacific, northern Pacific. They don't know if it's from land or sea, but it was detected once it was in flight. So the satellites missed it. They look for flame fronts supposedly and all that. Well, it's pretty hard for them to
Yeah.
miss it, but it could happen. But this missile's inbound, and then one of our seaborne radar detection systems finds it traveling towards America. At first, they thought it was just a test by the South Koreans or the North Koreans, uh, and but then it arcs over and flattens out. The trajectory is flattening, which means it's moving across the globe,
Yeah.
suborbital, to come back in, and they finally decide it's going to Chicago,
Mm.
which you may remember. I think it's in some of our broadcasts. I've said number of times that after they failed in Seattle in 2019, that the next target that has been telegraphed repeatedly is Chicago for a nuclear strike, nuclear detonation. Some of all fears. Do they bring it here in a box car, or do they a truck, or do they bring it intercontinental ballistic missile? You know, and say it was something else. But anyway, that's out there to get people thinking. Think of the timing with what I've told you. It's going to come down to a standoff over nuclear, literally some of all fears type thing, or Cuban Missile Crisis, as I describe it, and a standoff. And so here you're being, think of the Obamas when they were the executive producers on this special about civil war in America and America deteriorating into a civil war. And their wet dreams, they want America to go to civil war. Um, but then this nuclear threat and like that, they continue on certain themes because they need us in fear to then, in a 9/11-ish type response, allow them to take total control of America within their systems, within divide and conquer type mentality. And so, with that in mind, we're in this kind of a moment. A Golden Dome, beautiful, wonderful, outstanding. How many missiles does it take to protect you from incoming missiles? Well, right now, to handle intercontinental ballistic missiles, we have 42 ground based interceptors.
Mm.
That's how many we have. The
Wow.
Russians have thousands of missiles. You got 42 interceptors. Which ones do you intercept? And see, when they're still in that coast phase headed to the target, they haven't done what we call a MERV. They haven't gone into multiple independent warheads. Uh, if you can't intercept them there and they split up, now you have to have multiple interceptors for each one of the separate warheads. And they in the older technology, you could anticipate where they're going to be at and shoot a bullet at a bullet. But that's actually not the greatest threat today. Today, the greater threat is these hypersonic missiles. The stuff that goes out to the edge of the atmosphere is traveling at Mach, it's out there like 14,000 miles per hour, just below the escape velocity. The hypersonic missiles, uh, are there because of, like, for example, why is all the spraying going on around the country? That's part of the SDI system to be able to protect us, put a shield up from incoming nuclear warheads that are coming in from space and to break them up before they get down to lower altitudes. But they've gone to hypersonic missiles, which are steerable. And these hypersonic missiles, which are moving slower, Mach 10 to 12, at the edge of space in very thin atomic oxygen atmosphere, they can steer. And if you send up an interceptor, a bullet to hit a bullet, they can change course and you can't hit them. It becomes almost impossible to hit them. You can do it with lasers, and we have some systems coming online now, and that's the part that is not really public. And so the question is our laser systems deployed on the particular aircraft that we have them on capable of handling the volume of missiles that Russia could send over? And part of that technology, the Israelis have their Golden Dome, and the question is, how come Iran can't get missiles through there for the most part? It's because there's been a particular vehicle that's been used with laser capability to take out a lot of those missiles, the majority of them, and in rare exceptions where they were.
But why do you think this area is so important that they need to put a Golden Dome in Brevard County, Titusville, Melbourne, Merritt Island, etc.?
Well, because that's, again, that's where Southcom is. You've got that does all of our work into South America and even over into the Pacific, a lot of our work there. It's a key location for so many things. Right. And, if you got stuff coming in, it wouldn't be the only place. I mean, you'd continue to have the stuff from Alaska and other places for stuff coming in over the North Pole, Arctic regions. But you still have to have stuff that covers coming in from sea-based threats out there in the Atlantic and like that.
Is there a retirement in the cards for 107 anytime in the near future?
Let me send this call to outer space here 1 second. My chief of staff is calling.
Is that Matt?
Yeah. So we'll find out what he wants to tell me here in a minute.
Yeah.
But, I can tell you, a few weeks back, I had to clear out one of my hangars for stuff and move cars around and stuff, and I make space for something. And it was so, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to keep the mice down, so I got to put stuff out to make sure no mice get loose in there. And I've got a few of those garages, and I love my cars. I used to go to car shows pretty regularly. Yeah, the last car show that I was at was in March of 2022 at Mar-a-Lago, and but that was the last one I've gotten to be at for a long time. And before that, I think it'd been 3 or 4 years before that, just because there's so much at stake, so much going on, and I would love to just go work on my own cars, have fun, take the boat out, do something. But for the moment, I don't personally feel the release to be able to do that. There's so much at stake, and it's the next generation and generations. I do get to enjoy a day or two here or there. I'm over in Hawaii right now. It's a nice sunny day. I've got stuff going on. Jen's working on business stuff all day today. So we stay pretty busy, but it's within the context of the moment. I don't think that any of us look. I have a lot of respect for those people working for no gain at all, just to save America. Whole group of people out there in Utah with this RICO action into the politics going on in Utah, and what happened with, I got to be careful because where we're at, but stolen something or other. that they're fighting a RICO case there, the Tracie Halvorsen stuff, um, in federal court right now. Everybody should join that. In fact, you should have her on an interviewer this week. But huge case, the stuff going on in Oregon where they've actually gotten a quo warranto to the U.S. Supreme Court where they had challenged several officials in Oregon, are you even in office legitimately, legally? And didn't get an answer. They just got brushed aside. That just got on the docket over at the Supreme Court about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Uh, thousands of hours, thousands of hours of work each by multiple people to make those things happen. No pay, no real reward. Even if they win, it's for the next elections, the next generation. Same thing over here in Hawaii. They just had a hearing in the elections board here in Hawaii on Wednesday, and established beyond any question that there was no way to account for 19,000 votes that came in through Hawaii County, here right where I'm at in Kona. 19,000 votes that were logged in as mail-in ballots, yet the mail system can't account for one of them. Every piece of mail is photographed, and the mail system has no record of 19,000 ballots that supposedly came from the mail system to elect a governor and other positions around the state. We have actions like that all across the country where people have put in, unbelievable hours. They could be out relaxing, doing stuff with their kids, hanging out, just having a good old day, and let the racketeers, the powers that be, the Capones, run the country, run the world. But they're not doing that. And so when the other people around me decide they need to take a break, then I probably take a break. But I don't think that it is appropriate to throttle back at this moment in time. And I will tell you this, all my life, I remember the guys that are no longer here when I was very young talking about the situation and saying, it's going to be up to your generation to fix this. We won't be able to get there. There's too much. It's too big. But you have to work towards it. You're going to have to own this and fix it. It'll be your generation. Well, here I am.
Yeah.
And all that time to get to this moment in time, we are at this hyper elevated moment. All the chicanery, all the monsters are so clear now. It's come to a head. Yeah, if we don't do it now, if we don't get this under control now, how many generations will it be before there's another opportunity to recapture the direction of the planet, let alone the country? There's a great weight there that I think it is a calling from God Himself, and those that decide to take up the plow and do it. You can't, when God tells you to do something, you can't ignore it. You can't stop.
That's the truth.
And so we have lots of people who have engaged, including Trump himself. Look at the example, he works seemingly tirelessly, but the reality is behind the scenes, he gets tired just like everybody else.
Absolutely.
Okay. He wants to spend time with his grandkids.
Yeah.
He goes out and golfs. What's he doing when he's golfing? He's getting a little exercise, and he's got people he's doing private meetings with. Come on, go golfing with me. Let's talk. He's not just
Exactly.
golfing. Hello?
So
Come on,
even
man.
though you want to retire, you can't retire because we're in the middle of the most important dance for Mother Earth. I get it. Okay.
Well, and let me just say this, but actually, um, sometime this war will be over. This is what I was born for.
Yeah. Well, let's say
I'm there. I'm doing what I'm doing because it's what I'm supposed to do is my attitude. And I've had unique opportunities to get to be in the fight at this place, this time. it's a gift from God. I'm not, you know, anxious to retire. I have stuff I want to do with my space systems and other stuff that I want to put my time and energy into, and other projects, but it just isn't appropriate right now. And I
Totally.
don't even want to talk that way because we aren't even done. I hope I make it through this with everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.